Hello, Trek in the Valites. Welcome to a very special episode of Trek in the Valley. Al had to change some travel plans this week, so we weren't able to record a fresh one for you. But I took on a little project that I'd been meaning to do for a while, and I sort of re-edited our pilot episode where Al and I discussed Star Trek into microphones for the first time. It's a historic moment where we discussed The Cage, which is, of course, the original pilot of Star Trek, the original series. Get it? We did the pilot for the pilot. We're such clever little boys. And it was the first time we got together just off Auto Row in the San Fernando Valley and discussed Star Trek. And we will be back with you next week for our regular episode where we will cover Is there no truth in truth no beauty? Wow, that's Is there in truth no beauty, which is season 3 episode 5 of Star Trek the original series. We'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming, but for now, enjoy the pilot. Cue the music. Me.
Fascinating. Up your shot. Up your shot. Fascinating. Fascinating. Up your shot. Up your shot. He's dead, Jim. She's dead, Jim. He's dead, Jim. She's dead, Jim. He's dead, Jim. She's dead, Jim.
Hi, I'm Adam Ordall Quinnell. I am Adam Ordall Quinnell, and this is the Untitled Star Trek podcast. I'm here with
my name's Al Hirt.
Al Hirt, everybody, or a soon-to-be other pseudonym, because we would hate for people to know his crimes. Yeah, so this is it's the Untitled Star Trek. What is it?
I don't
recap.
know, I guess a recap. Yeah, review. A rewatching.
Untitled Star Trek recap podcast. We're recapping the original series. We're going to talk about each episode of the original series, episode by episode, season by season. And for the pilot today, we're going to be talking about The Cage, which, of course, is the pilot of the original series that would later be used in the 2-part episode Menagerie that I look forward to talking to if we actually do this podcast for real.
We'll get there.
First, Al is a buddy of mine. Al, what is your history with Star Trek?
Well, I started out really more as a Star Wars guy until, I guess, maybe it was 2010, 2011. But once one of my friends convinced me to start watching Star Trek, I actually just skipped over the original series, started with Next Generation. Now I'm like maybe midway ending on Voyager, and then just going to keep going from there.
Have you watched
now I'm come back to like this original series from your recommendation, so we're just going to watch it from the beginning to end.
Yep, looking forward to it. So I never watched the original series really because it always looked terrible to me.
That was the other thing too, yeah.
Looked bad. I started, and you know, real Star Trek fans or whatever can get mad about that, but I started watching Star Trek with The Next Generation as well. I remember my dad and I watching the pilot episode of that on whatever syndicated channel was carrying it late at night. And I think that was 1987, so I was 5 years old. And ever since then, love Star Trek. But the only experience I had with the original cast was the movies, motion picture and on. So I didn't really know, and it always looked so bad. And then I got COVID a month or two ago. And I noticed that they had these remasters of the original series that I'd read about and watched like side-by-side comparisons of.
Yeah, and that caught your eye.
Yep. And then I watched 40 episodes while I had COVID.
Jeez.
It looks so great. It's so much fun. It's obviously a product of the times, and we'll discuss.
Definitely.
We'll discuss that. But I just thought, hey, yeah, I love how it looks. The remasters are so great, and we're going to mention this throughout the podcast, I'm sure, because all of the visual effects look awesome. It
looks fantastic.
It's really funny how how quote unquote bad it used to look, and how they made it. All the close ups just look so crisp, and you can really see how sweaty everybody's faces are and shit. I really like it. So are you watching the new Star Trek stuff? That have you watched Discovery?
No, I haven't seen any of the new stuff.
Okay.
I'm just keeping in line with
You didn't watch Picard even?
No, not even Picard, no.
Oh.
I've heard bits and pieces though, but
yeah, if we cover Picard on this podcast, it would be like 12 years from now by the time we get to it. But yeah, no, I enjoyed Picard, and I'm sure we'll end up talking about a little bit of that stuff.
Well, you recommended Brave New Worlds though. That's good.
Strange New Worlds.
Excuse me.
Say Brave New Worlds as well, but that's the Aldous Huxley novel.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Strange New Worlds is great, and a lot of that dovetails in with a lot of this. Like, this episode is heavily referenced in Strange New Worlds.
Oh, okay.
And so you haven't watched any of Strange New Worlds? Okay, wow.
It's all just fresh still.
Oh, wow.
That's why I wanted to try to do this and kind of just catalog it, too.
You're lucky to get to watch.
I've always been a Star Wars fan, so... But I heard Trek was a smart man's Star Wars, and I didn't really get it until I saw Next Generation and all that.
Well, it's kind of the difference for me, and this has been discussed better by other people, I'm sure, how the Star Trek episodes are kind of like a procedural, and Star Wars is like
an epic.
It's
right?
like a space opera or whatever,
yeah.
and they're totally different things, because one's movies
evil.
and one's movies and one's TV shows, and of course there are the Star Trek movies that are generally pretty good and worth watching. So the Cage is the pilot for the original series that was written by Gene Roddenberry, and let's see here, directed by Robert Butler. And I'm totally not fact checking here, but I feel like Gene Roddenberry wrote. Twilight Zones. That was something that we talked about.
Yeah, I definitely brought that up because it definitely had a darker tone this episode.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Let's see here. No, I don't. It doesn't look like he ever wrote on Twilight Zone.
There's a huge influence of it, though.
Yeah, and it could be just because that's sort of the sci-fi of the time.
Right.
And let's see here.
And we were both saying, too, that, I mean, I was thinking it, but it's like the script, too, could be possibly obviously dated before it aired and all that, too. Granted.
Yeah, it could have just been a sci-fi story that Gene Roddenberry had laying around, and then, they adapted it for the series. For all I know, and having not done any research. And we're going to learn...
Well, of course, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to learn how this works, too, figuring it out. How much research do we want to know? How much do we want to know going into things? The point is, if we look at the Wikipedia for this episode, The Cage, and also Al is going to reference...
Oh, yeah, we got a compendium here.
Yeah, the Star Trek compendium by who?
Alan Asherman.
Alan Asherman. When was that published?
This would be published, I think...
You can hear the sound of the pages turning. Antique pages...
Should be 1989.
1989, 2 years after the premiere of Star Trek The Next Generation. So Al found this compendium. We're talking about doing the podcast. Where did you find that?
Found it at some thrift shop down in Berkeley.
You were when were you in Berkeley?
It was like, I think it was about maybe a week or two ago.
What'd you go up there for?
Oh, no, I was just checking out the sites around and just trying to get more knowledge of, like, California and all that area.
Oh, cool. So you just drove up?
Oh, yeah. I definitely just toured around and just tried to check it out.
What way did you go? Did you take PCH and do the long way, or did you go up
did.
the 5?
I decided to do PCH, too, because it's been a minute.
Yeah, that's cool. When I went, I took the less scenic but faster route. I did Sketchfest, SF Sketchfest in 2019, right after we moved out here. And,
nice.
And so I drove up. I basically bought the car that I own now because I needed to have a car because Brittany was working on a movie. Mm-hmm. My wife was on set working on a movie. So here, all that notwithstanding. Oh, and that's something else I should have mentioned. Yes, you got it from a thrift shop in Berkeley. It's the Star Trek Compendium, published in 1989. We're going to reference it and read little bits out of it as we go here. We're going to chat a little bit about who made the episode, who was in it, and whatnot. And then we're going to just basically discuss the story, and then we'll have some sort of wrap-up. There was probably theme music that played sometime before we got to this. And I wanted to mention, it was, I will have to remember.
Think? Well, I think we should just go through the episode and go over our notes.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, first, just a quick little synopsis. The Cage from the Wikipedia. The Cage is the first pilot episode of the American television series Star Trek. It was completed on January 22nd, 1965, with a copyright date of 1964, which is 2 years prior to the actual series premiere. The episode was written by Gene Roddenberry and directed by Robert Butler. It was rejected by NBC in February of 1965, and the network ordered another pilot episode, which became Where No Man Has Gone Before. I think that ends up being episode 3 of the original series. Much of the original footage from The Cage was later incorporated into the season 1 two-part episode, The Menagerie. However, this is interesting. The Cage was first released to the public on VHS in 1986 with a special introduction by Gene Roddenberry, and was not broadcast on television in its complete form until 1988. There's a black and white version and shorter all-color version, which was released on various definition media, including Laserdisc. Do you know what a Laserdisc is? I should say Al is much younger than I am. Do you know what a Laserdisc is?
No idea.
Oh, okay, so a Laserdisc, it's like a CD, but it's the size of an LP. And it's a video. So it's like the precursor to DVD technology and Blu-ray and shit. And they're
a huge platter.
They're enormous, and they would there's a bunch of different types, but they were just massive. If anybody's listening to this that understands Laserdiscs, I probably sound like an idiot, but they're just huge. They look the size of an LP. I never had a Laserdisc player, but I remember we babysat somebody one time, my mom and I, and they had a Laserdisc player, and I think I watched Beastmaster on it or something. Have you seen Beastmaster? It's going to be so many things. But yeah, so let's take a look at the plot of this episode, and then we'll chat about our notes. So basically what happens is Pike gets it. Pike and it's not the actual cast we know and love. And what do you think about that as somebody who's never seen Star Trek?
It's definitely disassociative. They feel like it's all really serious. It feels like a much more stern take on actually being on a starship and them taking their duty seriously. I kept noticing there was one guy with a bandage on his neck.
The bandage neck?
Yeah, and that there's obviously they had other adventures and journeys, and I think they had other ideas in mind, while filming this. But
yeah, that's something that I actually really appreciated about the pilot, was that it felt lived in a little bit already. Exactly. At one point when Pike is talking to the doctor, who we'll mention in a second is also Dr. Smith from Lost in Space. Pike even describes he just had some crazy soul-shaking adventure that made him question everything, and he wants to retire. So basically, they get a distress call from the fourth planet in the Talos star group. They assemble a landing party. They track the distress call to the landing party, and then they discover a camp of survivors from a scientific expedition. And what I love about the old Star Trek is you can tell that when it's just actors that would have been in an episode of Bonanza, it's just actors because it's just actors from any other TV show, Dragnet or whatever, you know, like, and so this group of like old timey actors come out, and they're a science team who's been marooned there, and there's a beautiful young woman named Vina. So what notes do you have from how the episode opened?
Well, the thing that obviously we both noticed the most and talked a lot about was, you know, that opening shot of just the stars and the galaxy and them peering into the hole, right?
Yeah, and
seeing all of the crew.
I would love to watch a side-by-side with how they did that in the original episode.
Yeah, we gotta find
obviously
out.
there's remaster shenanigans happening with that.
Oh, for sure.
Because, yeah, it blew my mind. There's a big push in from the stars, and it actually pushes in through the bubble at the top of the ship into the bridge, and it's just such a sweet edit.
And that's how they end it, too, with peeling out of the bridge.
Yep, spoiler alert, they pull back at the end, and that's such classic procedural pilot shit. You know, they're trying to tell you that, hey, nothing really changed for these people, you know?
And that they're always there. It's their surrounding.
Next week, we're going to push in on another story and pull back, and I had that written down too. I think it's funny that they're at one point they mention a meteorite beam like instead of the deflector dish. So basically, Pike gets, so this is interesting. So Pike meets Vina, this beautiful woman, and the doctor is looking at the health. The doctor, who's Dr. Smith from the actor. Do you have the book open
Lost
that
in
says
Space?
who the cast is? Yeah. So it's Dr. Smith from Lost in Space, right? And he's like the best actor. He's whenever you see him, you know you're in good hands.
It's Dr. Boyce.
Dr. Boyce. And what's the actor's name? Does it have that?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't say on here.
Okay, so Dr. Boyce is I wanted to say investigating the bodies of, but what do doctors do? He's doing physicals on these people.
Yeah, basically a health check.
He's doing a health check on the people who were
John Hoyt is Boyce.
John Hoyt. Who's been stranded. So these people have been stranded there, the science expedition, and they're going to. He's checking them up, and he's saying they're in too good a health,
Especially for being just stranded survivors on a remote island or planet or whatever.
Hey, that's okay to call it an island though, because planets are the islands of space. You know,
That's true. But they're in just rags and stuff, and then obviously the first suspicion is because Venus stands out and she's like in full makeup and she just doesn't look torn up at all.
Yep, and so these people look too good, and then the big trick here, spoiler alert, somebody is being tricked, is that Vina says, hey, the reason we're in such good health is because we discovered something on this planet that keeps us healthy and in perfect health. And I want to show it to you. And Pike is captivated by her beauty, and they walk off. And
Immediately
he goes with her to somewhere where there's nobody else. And that just seems like a dumbass thing to do. Like, why wouldn't he?
Especially after the doctor said they're too healthy.
Yeah, the doctor said they're too healthy. Pike is thinking about quitting. He had a big emotional heart-to-heart with the doctor before they went down there, where he's like, I want to retire. And so he just goes with her to some second location, as they say, in the after hours bar scene. And of course, he gets trapped by her. But the point is, he should have just said, hey, why don't you just tell me what this thing is? How about you describe it to me while we're around all these other people? But no, he goes off, and then the big reveal, what happens?
Oh, yeah, the big reveal, obviously, is that as soon as she tries to show him the secret or whatever, she suddenly disappears, and then he ends up getting trapped by this group of aliens with, massive heads. But that was back when, like, the furthest of their alien creativity was just putting stuff on people's heads.
Yes,
that was a great effect, and especially the way they pulse, their brains pulsed with the air going through them.
Yeah, so the Telosians are masters of they're masters of mind deception.
And then they trap him and take him down an elevator and then put him in a cage. And then he sees this was a cool part too. They put him in a glass cage, and then he's looking at the other species. And they did a really, it was kind of cheap, but it made sense, to save budget on the money too. But the third cage down was just like shadows, and it was just like tentacles in the air. And then you saw the Telosian cross the corner.
There's some awesome practical creature effects in that sequence
really
where it shows the menagerie, where it shows and there's like a bird guy.
The bird guy. And
then there's what looks like a primitive kind of version of what would eventually become the Gorn or something. It's like it's like an ape with a lizard face. So I really dug that scene where you got to see them, the other aliens. But I do want to talk about this elevator for a second, because why do they have a fucking elevator? Like, they prove that they can just teleport people through stuff. They can fuck with your mind, and then they get into an elevator and
and it's not real anyways, right? Because
they show it at the end. You see it.
Eventually.
Yeah, that they had.
They could have put it in the rock. It doesn't have to be above.
Yeah. So basically, the captain gets taken and put in a menagerie by these by the Telosians who are fucking with his mind, right? And the crew of the Enterprise comes down to try and get him, and they can't cut through the door to get to the elevator no matter what they're doing. And of course, the Doctor is like, well, what if this is all just in our heads? We know that the Telosians can mess with our minds. And that's what's happening on the surface. But underground, they've got Pike captured, and what do?
They kind of, the thing is that they mess with his head and give him like constant illusions and stuff, thinking that he's, they're trying to keep him satisfied and happy, and he just doesn't know why, but he wants to he keeps asking questions and resisting, right? Because, he's being captured and being held captive, and they just don't like it, but they're not giving him a reason why until Vina comes into the picture again, which it gets more confusing. Yeah, and she calls them dreams. They want to experience the dreams that Pike would have, and so Vina is trying to get him to have favorable, just favorable dreams. And when favorable dreams don't work, they put him in a situation where he has to save her life. It's a memory of when he was on Rigel. Yeah. And the Rigel incident is actually something that just recently happened that the Doctor references when they're having their conversation over martinis. The Doctor makes some martinis. Right, because he's talking about how exhausted he is. And I think that's what's really good about the episode, and the dichotomy between those two things, where he's at the beginning of the episode saying like, oh, I'm sick of this. I need a break. Like, I need to take a second. Maybe I shouldn't even be a captain anymore. And they're offering him visions and illusions of just, him trying to be happy and like satisfied and relaxed. And they want to experience those stories and emotions out of him, right? That's what it ends up being. And I noticed too, we both, right at that 30-minute mark or 33-minute mark, when Pike really tries to figure out the crux of like what the hell is going on. And what's her name? Vina?
Yeah, Vina.
And once Vina explains the whole thing, what was she saying? Like,
yeah, so they want him to, so basically how it's working is they want them to pair up and mate so that they can have a race of basically the surface of this planet was destroyed. These people, the Telosians, have been around for thousands of centuries, which is just such a long fucking time. And this is when she tells them that it's like a narcotic. Yeah. So basically these Telosians, they evolved over thousands of years and thousands of centuries, and they dream, and it's like a narcotic, and they get lost in it and addicted to it, right? And so then they evolve these huge brains that Al was talking about earlier, where it's like they've got a Nerf ball on their head, and it's like always pulsating. It's very big. And they have these like weird foam veins that pulsate when they're doing
so smart
stuff.
How they do it though.
Such a great the creature design is out of this
they
world.
Cut corners, but it's it adds value to the story and to the surrounding anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. And so she tells him that the Telosians are dream addicts, basically, who are have just evolved. They because they became addicted to their dreams. It's just like in Futurama when they're worried about Fry becoming addicted to having sex with a robot.
Yeah.
And they play that video that's like, don't have sex with robots because you'll just want to have sex with a robot, and then society goes to shit. And that's what happened with these people. They became addicted to their dreams, big nuclear holocaust or whatever. And so the surface is, she says, Vina tells them the surface is just coming back to life now. So they want...
And I want to mention, too, the worst part that Vina brings up, too, is that, like, she says the race of people, they forgot to repair their ancestors' technology. So they were just pretty much SOL until they were trying to find more other people's dreams and emotions to basically just entertain themselves with.
Yeah, they were so addicted to dreaming that they lost the ability to repair their ancestors' technology. And then they finally are able to do something to lure people over to try and lure
which
the Enterprise
led to
in.
the trap and all that. And
Exactly.
I mean, I would compare it to, like, you know, virtual reality and all these headsets that are coming out now, and especially with COVID and everything, given that there's a lot of parasocial relationships and a lot of things that are going on the internet and all that right now. And, you know, I'll be honest, a lot of people do prefer just being online than going outside, especially given that they get sick or that they get worried.
Yeah, well, it's like the Kotaku, you know, the it's like the Japanese. That's like a person. A Kotaku is like a person who just lives online.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the protagonist of Ready Player One is kind of
Exactly.
like that. Yeah, and
I mean, it's easy. You could definitely understand how easy it is, given like all the content that's on there and things that are never going to end. And it's just like those visions that these what are they?
The Telosians.
The Telosians are trying to show us.
Yeah, I think that it's pretty obvious that we would all rather be having awesome drug dreams than doing anything. But now they're fucked because they can't take care of themselves. So,
Wonderland's got to end, you know.
Yep. So they want to raise a race of humans to be slaves that will just do all the stuff for them to keep their race going, right?
Yeah.
But Pike sees through it, and he makes it. What does he discover? Because they keep putting him through these scenarios. He keeps trying to break out. When he tries to break out, they punish Vina by like blasting her mind,
boiling them or something. It's like an illusion. That was weird. What was he? Okay, so they eventually do it to Pike to freak him out. But it looks like he was in like corn or something like that, or like grain.
Okay,
it was just like
good.
wet.
Yeah. So I think what there's yeah, so Google this scene. There's got to be just a gif of it or something, but it's Pike, and so the Telosians are punishing him, right? And the punishment is it's like he's in hell and there's fire everywhere, but he's also wet. And I think what that's supposed to be is lava.
I think
or
magma. Like a fire. I was thinking that too.
He's like thrashing around in lava or magma, and it's so fucking hilarious. And then it cuts to him freaking out because that's how they punish you when you don't obey and do what they want. And so Pike, he's got to figure out what to do, and what he figures out is they can't read your thoughts or control your thoughts if you're having what they call primitive emotions, right? Like, so if you're angry, and he only uses anger, but you'd think that if he like showed like desire to fuck Vina, you'd think that would be the same thing, that they wouldn't be able to get it.
That is primitive. What am I talking about?
Exactly. Yeah, that's lizard brain shit. So he's using getting angry to lock out the people from their minds, the Telosians. And at this point, it cuts back to the Enterprise, and you're reminded, oh yeah, there's a spaceship in this show, right? Because
there's so many good. It just shows how good the writing is, and internal conflicts, and just like all the mental. You just got to do a lot of like mental stuff to just take in what they're trying to say. On the surface, you could just watch it as like, oh, it's a silly sci-fi show, but like we're trying to think, oh wait, how does this connect to this, or how did they mean to play this out, and Yeah, you just get lost in it.
It goes back to, like you said, it being kind of like an episode of Twilight Zone. Because he's like trapped by aliens.
A lot of dread, a sense of dread.
Yep, and it's really so.
But anyways, they cut back to the Enterprise, right?
And the Enterprise is putting together a team to go down and try and save Pike, and it's two ladies. It's the yeoman and number one, who's awesome. Majel Barrett, I believe, is the actress who plays number one. She's been in Star Trek shit forever. She's the voice of the computer on Next Generation.
Oh.
And she's the originator of the character that Rebecca Romaine is playing in Strange New Worlds. That's that number one. So she's great. So it's these
great actress.
It's these two yeomen and Spock and a couple other people, and they're gonna transport down. But what happens? They
yeoman
energize.
And number one. They end up energizing just the women, number one and yeoman.
Yeah, what's her name? My wife sent me the text. It's yeoman something or other.
Yeoman Colt, I think.
Yeah,
but I don't know the actress's name.
Yep, yeoman J.M. Colt, and it's Laurel Goodwin.
Okay.
Just like she stepped off the set of Gunsmoke. All of these actors and actresses look like you could put a bonnet chaps
definitely
on them, and then they could go work on the lot next door.
I think that's what gives it its charm too. That it's like really, their uniforms are really simple. Their designs are super big. They're just trying things out. But anyways,
so some of the uniforms. One of them, the engineers that they have like gray tan karate.
They look so warm in that, dude.
Yeah, it's so strange
under the heat lamps on that planet. But so anyways, it's a yeoman
Colt and number one they get beamed down, but the other people don't. And that's because the Telosians are going to... Basically, they've decided that...
I was trying to think about that. Because then they could just bring down more men, too, right? But then I think they're trying to just bribe Pike at that point.
Yeah, you know what? That's fucked up. Why wouldn't they just get all the men down there?
That's what I was thinking, too, yeah.
And then trap them all, and then you don't have such a small gene pool.
That, too. But I think they're trying to bribe Pike.
Well, here's something.
No, it's Gene Roddenberry that's writing this too. I was just keeping that in the back of my mind.
Well, here's the thing. Maybe the Telosians are still all fucked up and high on dreaming, and they're like they're not doing this right. Like
that could be it too.
So we see an alien with a big brain. Yeah. We see an alien with a big brain. We think, oh, they must be really smart, right? But they're also high on their own fucking dreams, like heroin.
And they're still learning about humans at that point, I would think.
Yeah. And so now they're gonna make Pike choose between number one and the yeoman Colt,
and then Vina.
And Vina is out already. The reason they're like, Pike doesn't want you. We're gonna get these other two women,
the other two.
And she's freaking out because she's thought it was a done deal and that Pike chose her. And it's so funny. She even screams, "He chose me!" And it's like, yeah, but he chose you when you were the only one.
Yeah,
that's not much of a choice.
And I mean, what is it? And finally, number one does some investigating on Vina, because obviously Pike is just distracted by her beauty, doesn't really ask her about her. I mean, he does, but not as much as we'd hope. And number one was like, wait, so like, if you've been here
18 years,
then... And then she just gets interrupted, obviously.
And that becomes important later.
Great. Yeah, they call back to that later.
One thing.
But then what happens right after that?
Well, one thing I want to mention is when the Telosians have number one and yeoman Colt, they're like describing why they would be good mates. And the Telosian is like, both of these women have fantasized about Pike, and they're just like, ooh. And number one has fantasies involving Kirk, and then yeoman Colt has, they say, unusually strong female drives.
I was like, oh my god.
Oh yeah, man. And
I turned to Adam and I was like, oh, okay, so they both happen to like him, I guess.
Yeah, and they really lucked out.
Yeah.
And so the Telosians are like, you got to decide, and then they do what they do and they just leave. And then at this point, Pike knows that being angry, so he's just trying to stay Hulk raged.
But I think he gets so entranced in his anger that like Vina ends up explaining everything that happens to number one and Yeoman.
Yeah, well, yes. So she's
Because he's
basically...
just walking back and forth in the cage, just like, he's staying angry. And she's like,
and she's bringing them up to speed. And at this point, because... then the ladies go to sleep, and Pike is keeping himself awake in a rage.
Because he takes their guns, and, like, he tries to escape. But they're
guns
already
don't
disabled.
Work. Yes,
that's the thing. They're just so far. They're a step ahead of them in every sense of the word, and it's great.
Yeah,
I like that.
And he throws the guns down by a little door where they've given him food and stuff through a door. Which why is there a door in there? If they're making all this shit with their minds,
they
haven't figured out all of the little sci-fi stuff yet.
Well, they have the elevator too, so
yeah, and they also still have an elevator probably that's thousands of years old. So this plays into Pike's plan. He's keeping himself raged out, and one of these aliens comes in to pick up the phasers, and Pike grabs him and pulls him in and starts choking him out, and he's all raged out. And at one point, Vina even says, "Hey, they don't mean to be evil. They're just all been high on their dreams, and their ancestors are dead."
She's like, "You're killing him. Stop."
Yeah, what did you think about that? What did you think about Vina standing up for the disgusting Brainlians?
It's been 18 years. She's probably Stockholm syndrome, and obviously, you find out at the end. And once number one brought up that question, and before then, I turned to you too, and I was like, she's gonna be like 85 or something. I think something's gonna happen with her in the age. Because it's already established as soon as those human refugees or whatever that they find are gone, and it's all an illusion, and that, it's all, anything's on the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially given how well this show is written too. I was just thinking, I figured it out. I mean, not that the elevator we find out is eventually fake, but don't you think the cages and all that's already there, that must be past tech?
Well, it's
that
real.
They don't know how to use, right?
Well, I mean, because we
barely know how to use.
We know that the glass is real because he shoots. So this is how they get out. Pike is staying mad, and he's grabs his phaser. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he grabs the phaser, and he shoots. He tries to shoot through the glass, and then he looks at the brain guy, the Telosian, and he holds the phaser up to his head, and he said, "I think that I did just shoot through that glass, and you're making me think that I didn't. And do you want me to test that out on your fucking head, your big veiny pulsy head?" I
mean, he pretty much keeps his grip. And he's like, "You're
even
gonna
though he's very
bro."
mad.
I think it's still that too for sure.
And then they drop the illusion. There is a big hole in the glass. So we know the glass is real. We know the elevator is actually real. It's just destroyed from earlier because
the Enterprise attempts to go through with a big giant laser beam.
Yeah, we mentioned that earlier. So they even had the Enterprise try and shoot these elevator doors open with their phasers from space, and they weren't able to do it. But whoops, they really did, as they find out when they come up the elevator and have that epic, one of the best scenes is there's just so many reveals that happen
back to back to back.
Yeah, so I'll talk about it. They get out. They come out of the elevator, and Pike has got Pike's got the phaser on the Telosians.
Oh, right. So then they have them armed, and they're just threatening them, and they're saying, "Hey, this is it. We want to leave. You can't keep us captive." But then Vina obviously is still speaking for the Telosians and wants them to have a case, and Pike eventually gets convinced and just bargains with them to have just the two females go back and escape back to the Enterprise.
Yeah, Pike's going to give himself up.
And I mean, that's anything a captain would do. That's pretty standard, but it's smart.
Then it takes a turn, though, when Pike...
because we go back to the Enterprise because there's still a B plot, right?
Yep. And what's happening on the Enterprise?
The Enterprise is they're getting wiped. Their data's getting wiped
because
the aliens are still getting trapped to their ship. Because as soon as it happens as they get beamed down, Yeoman and number one.
Yep.
They disable their guns, and then they disable the engines on the Enterprise.
That's right.
And
all
wiping
systems.
Their stuff.
They say all systems fade. Mm-hmm. And all of their tapes and all of their data are being rapidly read, and you see the Kennedy assassination and shit.
A nuke bomb.
Yeah, and all this stuff. And that's the Telosians assimilating their history.
And then what ends up happening is...
Pike decides that if they're not going to let the ladies go, or I can't remember exactly how this happened, but the point is he sets his they set their phasers to overload, so they're gonna kill themselves instead of being slaves to the Telosians. And then just one of the Telosians like, you're fucking bluffing. No being would do that. And then this other Telosian comes out and says, wait, we assimilated their data. Here, take it. And then he puts the data in his brain.
They just mind drop it.
Yeah, he mind airdrops all of the data from the Enterprise to the lead Telosian.
And it's this, their heads are pulsing this whole time. It's so funny.
Definitely a little motor in there behind the nerf. But so the reveal is the Telosian says, oh, wait, we just realized that humans, you guys particularly don't like being in captivity. And that's just like the humans gotta be free or whatever. And they're like, even if it's benevolent and nice, you don't like it. And that's why Pike, of course, so they say, well, you wouldn't be good slaves.
Yeah, and they also bring up the fact that like you're willing to kill yourselves over this, so we don't. Whatever. That's how it comes off
it's not like they feel bad.
No.
They don't say, hey, we feel bad. They say, you'd be bad slaves because you'd always be trying to fucking get away.
Yeah.
And then they say, oh, and by the way, because we're not going to start our new slave race with you all, we're doomed.
Take Vina.
Yeah, exactly. So the big mystery reveal is we find out what's like. Basically, Vina says, hey, I'm not going to go with you all to the Enterprise and leave because...
She's, what, 80s?
No, it's not 70s? That she's... I mean, she is older. She's 18
60.
years older.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So she's only in her 40s or 50s, but she's horribly disfigured.
Oh, that's right, because she was in Rebel.
Yes.
And then, that's the messed up part.
They put her back together.
Yeah, but I wish they went more into that because she was like, they didn't really have a guide for human anatomy.
They could have made her look so much more jacked up.
Yeah, and it was just, I think it was just makeup and face.
She doesn't even
too.
look ugly until the last bit of the special effect, because they're doing that special effects where they it's like time lapse photography, but with the makeup. Cool. And so they make her look, and she looks like at first you're like, oh, what? She's 18 years older. Who cares? And then there's the last one. She like hunches over, and her face looks broken.
Yeah, she's got pore,
and she's got a big and then she's got a bubble on her forehead, it's because they found her in the ruins of the ship, and she was in pieces. And they put her back together, and she's like, "But they didn't know how to put me back together." So they got
with the dread and the
so then you think of
crisis.
Like if they made this episode now, she'd like have her leg where her arm.
I feel like they'd go over the top with it. I think that's what I mean. It again, that's like what I was saying before with the shadows and like all the little things and the uniforms and stuff. It helps to their story, that like. It's not about having over the top crazy effects. Like maybe Vina didn't need to have like 3 tentacles coming out of her or something,
Yeah, exactly. They did a very good job with what they had.
I mean, they're still kind of smart at Telosians.
Yeah,
so.
and no, they I mean, yeah, they had this great. The Telosians had this great plan. It's just so funny that. And then she stays with them, and they're like, "Don't worry, we're gonna take care of her."
Yeah, and Pike's like, "Wait, what about her health? Why can't she just have that?" And they're like, "We'll do you one better. We'll just make another Pike." And then they just do.
That's right. They make a Pike clone. I'd already forgotten that.
And then they escape.
And then they don't even they just let them go.
Oh yeah,
so
that's right.
They made it because they had all this data now, so they could make an accurate human for her to be with. They don't. And I mean, they'll never propagate or anything, but that's just. She's just going to live with Pike. And I didn't even know what was happening at first because they show Pike, but he really was acting like a clone. Like there was like a distance on his face. And then they get beamed up. And
he was smiling. I think that's what it was.
Oh, yeah. Like you hadn't really seen him smile. Oh, smiling. Fuck. That was one of my notes that I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
When they go down at the beginning. And it's the away team.
Oh my god!
And Spock is looking
right,
at there's these plants like there's these plants that are just vibrating and making this like humming sound. And Spock touches them, and he's got this big dumb look on his face. And he's smiling. He looks like he's in like a trippy music video from the '60s. But that's something that I had to mention.
No, what I was thinking though, as you were saying that though, was that. As soon as Pike sees Vina, he smiles, and then it backs up to the aliens. Were they probably feeling his emotions at that moment, or were they like, oh, this is awesome, he's obviously attracted?
Maybe.
Like, and that makes sense. That's the only time he smiles. So.
Yeah, and they there's another effect that we should mention. It does this thing where it pulls out, and then you are watching a screen where the Telosians are watching what's happening.
Oh yeah,
and
it does
I love
that effect a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And they come back to that later when this episode is chopped up and made into the two-parter, the Menagerie, in the middle of season 1. But so they go back to the ship, and the only thing that even approximates a joke in this episode is when Yeoman Colt is like, so who would have been Eve between the two of us? Like, who would you have chosen? And then it's like, oh, ho-hum, and that's the end of it. And it's like a funny note, kind of, they try to end on a joke. But that's actually, and then it pulls out, and then we see the ship, and that's the end.
Yeah.
So the reason that CBS didn't want this pilot was because it was too dour. It was
super dark.
It was
especially for starting off a show like this.
It was too dark. They wanted more levity. They wanted more humor. And it's so funny that that's what they wanted, but then they actually made Spock a more serious character.
But they inverted it. I think it was just that, like, I'm sure they had a sillier script, but then they were like, well, we got to have one guy that's at least following the rules and is like, Captain, we need to do this. What about our reports? You know, like they need to have one guy like that. So then that's where Spock fit in.
Yeah. So
the eyebrows.
Oh, and the eyebrows. So Spock's eyebrows, he looks just fucking insane in this episode.
They make all the difference.
Yeah, and
expression,
he
everything.
really looks different than what they settle on. It's wild. So Al, you've never seen. I'd seen this episode. You'd never seen it. What did you think? What are your thoughts?
Thoughts? Yeah, obviously it was dour. It was really, really sad. A lot of I just kept thinking like, oh, a lot of dread, existential stuff. But what really popped out to me, it's just you see Roddenberry's writing and his formula like perfectly. Like it just starts the episode. You see Pike. He's already pissed off. He has his dilemma. He covers it with the doctor. Like, hey, this is my issue. I want to have a break. I'm tired of being captain. And then oh, maybe we should check this out. And if he didn't do his job, or if he was I want to go home, they would have never been on that planet, right? And it's like him making that decision of I guess we can go check this out, makes him go back of maybe being, I think him realizing maybe being trapped and just living a regular life isn't what I really wanted, or I'd rather have it be my actual choice than being captured, right?
Yeah,
which gives him motivation to leave. And that 30-minute mark was really good too. The conversation with Riva and the Telosians and that it's just he hits those points really well, and it all calls back. And I really like the ending too, because I was about to bring up it's a classic Star Trek ending of hey, let's just compromise instead of them blasting each other away. You know, they get what they want, the heroes get what they want, and it's like it never happened.
Yeah,
and that's the magic, I think, where you can watch it episodically.
And you see how the Federation got to where they are, by being compassionate like that, and by wanting to reach out in a way that's not violent to resolve the issues. But
that's a positive little twist at the end, you know.
And it's interesting that you mentioned the choice, because we didn't cover that. They're originally not going to investigate the signal from Talos, the fourth planet of Talos, because there doesn't appear to be any survivors. They said, that's right. So, but then suddenly there are survivors, and that's when the Telosians are affecting their minds.
That's true.
And it's because the Telosians are oh shit, they're not going to come.
They see them prior to going down, right?
They must have.
Yeah,
I don't think we see them watching them, but they must have.
Yeah, there's no other reaon why they'd go.
So you liked it. You liked
I loved it.
The cage, the
pilot.
Yeah,
it's a solid. There's no way to promote that without it being this is a scary sci-fi show. I think it's got to be, because I read an IMDb or on Wikipedia too that NBC didn't want this, right? And they're whoa, this is really messed up. This is a little too dark. How are you going to promote this, pitch this way? It was 60s. It was the 60s, groovy time. People were a little more upbeat, I would think.
towards the end. This is the mid 60s, so they're just
Mid-60s.
figuring that shit out. Like, stuff is still
Oh yeah, that's
bad
right.
for
That's
the
right.
counterculture. I mean,
Dude, and then there's some parts though when he beats Pike, like punches Vina, and then there's another a mark that Pike says where he's like, "Sorry, I'm just not used to women on the bridge."
oh
and I
yeah,
was like,
that's
what
when
the hell?
because
It's the future,
yeoman,
right?
Well, yeah, and also he's talking about
should have said
Yeoman Colt.
cadet.
He's talking about Yeoman Colt. He's like, I'm not used to having women on the bridge, but number one, his first officer's a woman. And he's like, oh, but not you.
Yeah,
like
it's
you're
so
one of the
biz-
guys.
it's so
It's
confusing.
fucking weird, dude. They're supposed to be this,
But it's like you see those little piers in there.
So a couple interesting things that we discussed that we wanted to cover. So about Captain Pike. Jeffrey Hunter, this is from the Wikipedia casting. Jeffrey Hunter had a 6-month exclusive option for the role of Captain Pike, although he was required to continue if the series was picked up by the network. He was not required to film the second pilot that NBC requested, deciding to concentrate on motion pictures. He declined the role that Gene Roddenberry wrote, and Gene Roddenberry wrote to him on April 5th, 1965. I'm told you've decided not to go ahead with Star Trek. This has to be your own decision, of course, and I must respect it. You may be certain I hold no grudge or ill feelings and expect to continue to reflect publicly and privately the high regard I earned for you during the production of our pilot.
Dude, he loved him though. You can tell.
Yeah, and then 2 weeks after the pilot, the option expired, Hunter formally gave his letter requesting separation from the project. And this is the big tragedy.
Yeah.
He died on May 27th, 1969, 1 week after the original series ended its run. How did you say he died?
He had a stroke, and then apparently it was then he got another stroke, and then he fell. And then, granted that it was the 60s, they didn't have the right tech for the surgery or something, and he died in the hospital.
Oh no! And he was pretty good, but
That's pretty eerie.
You know, I mean, I'm glad
He was 42.
That's 2 years for me, man.
Crazy.
I hope. Yeah. So that's sad, and we're not going to end on a sad note,
Oh, no,
obviously.
of course not,
but
but
it's just
shocking.
interesting how much the series changed from making that new pilot, the second pilot. And I kept saying CBS earlier, but I guess NBC was the network that was producing it or developing it. And so we all know that second pilot ends up being, like people who know Star Trek, ends up being the Where No Man Has Gone Before, episode 3 of the original series. And then because they had to repattern or resequence the episodes. But so that's The Cage. And
So what's the next one after this?
the next one after this, what is it? Second Chance.
Is that what it is? Second
Yeah,
chance?
look, it's because each episode has. We're looking at our compendium.
Oh, yeah, compendium.
Second Chance.
Yeah.
And so that's the first episode of the original
wait,
series
no.
proper.
Yeah, it's Where No Man's Gone Before, number 2.
Oh, really? Oh, so I guess I've been saying Where No Man's Gone Before becomes episode 3. Oh, the Second Chance is the name of the chapter because they come back.
They come back.
So yeah, Where No Man's Gone Before ends up being the actual series pilot that we know and love, and that we're going to talk about in the
Here we
actual
go.
first episode of the show.
Let me read a little fun
Read.
fact from the
Compendium.
So The Cage was delivered to NBC's New York offices in February of 65 and rejected. They felt the story was too cerebral. I thought it was too dark, but too cerebral
Too cerebral.
for their audiences.
Oh, so they thought that the NBC audience at the time wouldn't understand getting high on dreams?
No, they wanted it to be more silly, I think. I think it was still too... I think they were just making that excuse too cerebral. It might have been like maybe the Reva speech in the middle.
Maybe, or just...
Dude, it's the 60s. They don't have...
But when I think about it being cerebral, then it's like, oh, I get it. Yeah, it's like a good sci-fi story from like a sci-fi an anthology. You know, where you read about
I kept
a
thinking
Star
about
Trek
Twilight
captain.
Zone.
Yeah, where you think it's about a starship captain who gets a distress call when he's considering his life. Continue from the compendium.
Oh, right. But anyways. But the Star Trek was not dead. After spending $630,000 on The Cage, NBC felt the series format deserved a second chance. For the first time in television history, a second pilot was commissioned.
First time in television history. Goddamn.
Amid the chatter disbelief within the industry, NBC let Roddenberry and Desulu know some changes had to be made to the Trek format.
Well, so what I find interesting, so the subtext of that is, we spent $630,000 fucking dollars on these rocks and all these dials
what's inflation
and shit.
for that?
Oh, I would never. You figure it out? I'm going to talk a little bit.
Yeah.
So Al's going to figure out how much $630,000 in 1966 would be today. But what I think is interesting about that is the studio's basically saying, look, we spent over $500,000 on this bullshit. We've got the rocks. We've got the fucking paper mache thing. We got the stucco doors.
Dude,
we
the
got
heads,
the sets.
bro. It had to be the heads.
They've got the prosthetics. They've got all the, and they end up and those don't get used in the pilot in where No Man Has Gone Before, even the second pilot. It's just so they'd spent all this money on sets, and they were like, we could pretty cheaply shoot a second pilot and rejigger it a little bit and change the format a little bit.
I just looked it up. Granted, the inflation's really high now. It's $5.8 million.
So it's like if Netflix spent $5.8 million on a pilot
and it sucked.
And it wasn't, they didn't like it.
They weren't happy, yeah.
So then they were like, well, we got all these. I just imagine it like, because these executives are not science fiction people. You know, they're numbers people. They're cigar chomping. They're all men.
Sure, but
it's
I think they were like
the
it's
Mad
not bright
Men.
enough. Well, I think it was too gray. The bridge.
Yeah, it was dark.
And their costumes too, or their uniforms.
And even the background on the bridge was sometimes just a black screen that had like other little images coming up on it.
They're working with where did that money go then? Because they're working with it. It had to have been because I noticed too in the cast, especially with Pike, the lead role. He was huge in John Wayne films, and like he did the Christ role for MGM, and I think from what I know from back then, MGM was king, and everybody wanted a piece of the pie.
Yep, Jeffrey Hunter.
It had to have been the cast, man.
Yeah, Jeffrey Hunter. He was in all kinds of stuff, and I think.
And then you said the other guy, Lost in Space.
But I think Lost in Space was on at the same time as this, so I think it's like he might have done this before. Let me see when the Lost in Space pilot was.
Well, I did read too in the compendium that they caught him at a good time because he just finished a show too, some Western.
Yeah, okay, so basically he shot the pilot for Lost in Space and the pilot for Star Trek in the same year. And
was he banking on Lost in Space?
Well, he's fucking great on Lost. Have you seen Lost in Space? So he plays Dr. Smith, and he's like this really like dramatic, and he's like really he's this very dramatic guy, and I'm not gonna risk doing an impression, but he's very funny. Okay. So that's us talking about the cage. I don't have my timer set up, so I don't know how long we've been talking. But this is going to be for editing purposes. And I think that at the end of each episode, we should just talk about like something that we're reading or watching or playing.
Or so looking forward to.
Yeah, we're looking forward to. Do you have a game or anything or a movie? Or
I've been playing the Cuphead DLC a lot.
Is that new?
I'm
not
a
Cuphead guy.
It's it came out about a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
So this is just
a week ago.
This is DLC for the original Cuphead that everybody's been fucking crazy about for years.
They reported that the DLC was going to come out in 2019, but they have to hand frame and animate everything.
Yeah.
So it's always going to be late. So it's kind of weird because especially with this internet culture and stuff, like you got to hit the hype waves and stuff. They kind of missed it, but people are just now getting more word of it and getting back into Cuphead.
Well, do you think part of that might have been they saw that the Netflix series was going to come out and they figured they probably wait on the DLC till after that?
Probably. They have like 15 projects, I'm sure, going on.
I don't know.
A lot of people want that Cuphead IP, man.
I don't know anything about the Cuphead verse.
It's so weird. They blew up, and it's good for them, the brothers.
I mean, it seems like I understand a little bit of the story that they're an indie game company that made a really cool like you said, hand-drawn.
They've wanted to do it since like they were kids, so it's like from the heart, and like they quit their jobs and then they did a demo of a level and a boss level. And then it got so popular, then it they were saying it got out of hand, I think it was a Kickstarter too at first.
Right on.
But anyways, yeah,
great.
That's what
Cuphead
I recommend.
DLC.
Delicious Last Course.
Delicious Last Course.
That's what it's called, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because, the final boss, I think, is a chef, so.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
I'm playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Shredder's Revenge. Fuck yeah, for the Switch. FAQ rules if you ever want to party up with me on the Switch for Shredder's Revenge. It's so good. It's like the spiritual successor to Turtles in Time, but they made it's long enough that you're not going to beat it in one sitting necessarily. But it's enough like those old Super Nintendo and arcade games that it really scratches that itch. I want that company also did a Streets of Rage remake in the same kind of fashion. And I really want them to just tackle all of those arcade games. Like make Simpsons, do the Simpsons, do the fucking Aliens versus Predator.
Crack they're wide open.
Do the
too.
X-Men, So that's what I'm playing. And something I forgot to mention at the top, we're coming to you from wonderful Van Nuys, California. Hot Van Nuys, California. I've been Adam Ordall Quinnell with my co-host
Al Hirt.
Al Hirt, everybody. And we will be back to discuss the actual first episode proper. And now is when I would be turning up...
getting into it.
Yep. Now is when I would be turning up the outro music. Trek in the Valley is executive produced by Adam Ordall Quinnell and Al Hirt. Theme song by Al Hirt. Recorded by Adam. Mixed and edited by Al. Check the show notes for our socials. And you can email the pod at trekinthevalley, all one word, @gmail.com. Like, subscribe, review, and always explore strange new fucking worlds.